All right, testing, making sure that we are working. Good, good. Looks like the mic is working. Good. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Hope you are doing well. Hope everybody is having a good night. It is I, Raven. You all probably know me by now, I would hope. We got some new people in chat tonight. Awesome. I see the Gaming Raptor, who I've never seen in one of my reading streams before. Welcome, man. Hope you are doing well. Been watching some of your videos today while I was at work. It was really cool. Loved your video with the Varangian Guard win. That was really cool, man. You pulled that off. That was very impressive. And also got Sync with us. Hi, Sync. I don't know how much of these you watch, Sync, but I'm glad you're here. And we just had Aaron pop in. Hello, Aaron. So, for those of you who are new here, welcome. This is the Raven Reads stream because I'm a published writer. I am a storyteller by heart and nature, and I like to share my stories with you guys. So every Monday night, I try to take the time to read some of my books to you guys. And tonight we are in the middle of reading my book, Monster Club. We're on chapter 23. And if you like what you hear or want to know how it begins, take a look in my playlist, the Raven Reads playlist. You can get there from my channel, and you will see a playlist showing all of the chapters of stories that I have read, so you can get all caught up. But would love for you guys to read those because I want to get some of my books published. Monster Club will never be published. Even though I have finished it, it is done. I will never publish it because, in a weird sense, I don't want to publish it because it feels too personal to me. So we are picking up on Monster Club tonight, but before we start reading, I want to do two things. First of all, I have an announcement to make. I said this on Discord. I want to make the announcement here again. So I have been asked by a lot of people to bring back some old series. I've been asked to do more Dead by Daylight content. I've been asked to do more Rainbow Six Siege content. I've been asked to do more Warhammer content. I've been asked to do a lot of stuff. Now, obviously, this isn't an easy thing to do simply because I have very limited time. I'm constantly at work teaching, so when as a teacher, you don't have as much time to do what you'd like. I have to teach classes, I can't just sit down and write nonstop behind a desk. I actually have to get up and teach, so that takes time and energy, and by the time I get home, I'm usually pretty worn out. But at the same time, there are periods in For Honor where things get a little stagnant, and I also don't get to play with as many people as I'd like to as I used to. So I should be able to work on some other stuff in the meanwhile. So I've got a bit of an announcement in that regard. I've had a lot of people come to my channel who are curious about Warhammer, and I've had a lot of people tell me that they want to hear more lore about Rainbow Six. So, coming very soon, I'm going to be releasing a very long series of videos where I break down and release information on Warhammer 40,000 factions and groups and organizations. It won't just be my thoughts on them, it will be detailed and in-depth discussions on them so that new people can understand them. And as for Rainbow Six Siege, I probably will not ever go back to play it, but I will talk about the lore again. So a lot of stuff is coming back. So very happy to start bringing back some old stuff. Now, when will this stuff come out? I don't know yet. I've got to get started on Fantastical History first. And we're going to be starting with the dragons. We're going to be starting with dragons in Fantastical History. So very excited to do that. Now, that was my announcement. Wanted to get that out there. So we can now get into the reading. For those of you who have never been to one of these before, here are the rules. There are 3 rules. Number 1, these are specifically reading streams. We don't talk about games. We don't talk about movies, politics, religion, any of that stuff. We just talk stories and books. If you want to ask questions about characters or chapters or something you heard, that's fine, but we just don't talk about other stuff. That way it keeps me on track and on focus. Number 2, please be respectful to me. I voice act all these characters, and some of the characters are female, and obviously given my deep voice, I can't do female voices very well. Not like I used to when I was a kid, and I could throw my voice a lot better. So please don't give me crap about me not being able to do female voices. And number 3, be respectful to each other in chat. Don't talk down to each other. Don't be mean to each other. We're here to have a good time and just listen to some stories, okay? All right. So, with all that out of the way, let me get chapter 23 up. Now, I will remind you guys, Monster Club was one of my oldest stories. I wrote this back in 2013, 2014, and chapter 23 here was written October 8th, 2014. I got the date right in front of me. So, let's get into reading. We last left off, Asher and Michelle just crawled out of the water. Asher is severely injured. Michelle is unconscious. The entire club is very unsure what to do right now. They know that they're going to miss their train to get back home. They're having to come up with other plans, and right now they're just worried about Michelle and Asher's health. Meanwhile, Abraham is struggling with a bit of self-doubt because he doesn't feel like he belongs in the group because he couldn't do anything to help out. All right, here we go. Chapter 23. The sun finally disappeared behind the horizon, and Ashley was finally free to become Asher again. With his strength returned and his wounds almost healed, Asher looked quite satisfied. The others were all beyond excited to see him back. Abraham, however, couldn't help but shoot glances at the still unconscious Michelle. How long would she be out cold? She had to wake up sometime. It worried him to see her like this, and it made him feel guilty to consider that all of this could have well been his fault. "What's on your mind, Abraham?" Sarah asked, walking close. "You keep staring at Michelle like you think she's going to run away." No, it's just that..." "Just what?" Sarah asked, lowering herself down onto the warm sand next to him. The moon gazed down at them all, and Abraham could hear Asher, Calypso, and Katie playing in the tides, while Tamiel listened from the sand. Tamiel didn't like the water much, and right now, with everything that had happened, he wasn't all that keen on having fun. Abraham looked at Sarah and suddenly saw how short her hair had been cut after the attack, and again felt a twinge of guilt about it. Sarah touched her hair, noticing where he was looking, realizing what he was seeing. "Oh, what is it? This is it? It'll grow back, Abraham. It's just hair. Besides, I think it makes me look cute. I was thinking about getting a haircut anyway, and it shouldn't have happened," Abraham interrupted. "It got chopped off because you were trying to save me from her," Abraham grumbled sadly, noticing Michelle. "Look, you can't blame yourself for any of this. Michelle, she can't control herself when she's like that," Sarah reassured him. "But if I could just stick up for myself, if I could protect myself, then you all wouldn't be burdened by me," Abraham snapped. "I've been thinking, maybe it'd be better if..." "Don't say it," Sarah snapped angrily. "Listen, you are part of this family now, and we'll always look out for family, whether you like it or not. I don't want to hear you being down on yourself like this again." "Sarah, no buts," Sarah pushed, giving a playful shove. "Look, what happened the other night was bad, okay? But it'll get better, you'll see." But Sarah didn't sound as convinced as she wanted to be. Sarah got up and turned to go, and Abraham rose to his feet as well. As much as he was grateful for her reassurance, there was still a great fear that nagged at him. In just another month, Michelle would transform again. And in that time, would he have to be saved again by the sacrifices of the club? Would they have to keep putting their lives at risk to protect his? He looked at Asher and Calypso, who were helping carry Katie back onto the sand as she was having trouble maneuvering in the water. Abraham suddenly had an idea and hurried over to the three of them. "Well, hello, Abraham," Katie spoke up. Her voice was kind, not harsh. For once, it seemed like Katie had forgotten, or at least put aside, her hatred for humans. Abraham smiled at her and then looked to Asher. "Hey, Asher, could I speak to you alone?" Asher blinked a moment and nodded. "Yeah, sure, come on." Asher waved to Calypso and Katie and walked off with Abraham up the beach behind a large tower of rocks. They were completely out of earshot now and out of sight of the rest of the club. Asher stared up at the sky and breathed in deeply. "Gotta love that sea air, right? Feels great," Asher laughed. I don't remember the last time I've ever been to the beach, and... "Hey, Asher?" "Yeah?" "Look, Abraham, if this is about me drinking your blood, I'm sorry. I wouldn't have done it if..." No, it's not about that at all," Abraham gasped, smiling. "You were exhausted and needed blood. I get that." "All right. What's eating you?" Asher asked. Abraham twiddled his fingers, unsure of what to do or say or how to say it. He knew what he wanted to ask, but it was a big question. "Asher, last night when Michelle attacked, everyone risked their lives to save me. Sarah and you were nearly killed trying to protect me. Abraham, that's not your fault." "But it is my fault, Asher. Katie told me that werewolves are more drawn to humans than any other creature. And Michelle was going after me when the others had a chance to get away. They knew I was too weak to protect myself, so they all tried to save me and they got hurt," Abraham barked. "So this is my fault." "What are you getting at?" Asher asked. "Look, I saw your fight. You're amazing," Abraham whispered. "With powers like yours, you're not afraid of anything. No one has to protect you." Asher's eyes flashed a moment. "What? You want me to teach you how to fight?" No, I want you to make me a vampire." There was a pause, a moment as the words sank in. "Look, I just want to be able to be fearless and powerful like you..." "Shut up!" Abraham was thrown backwards by an unbelievable punch that Asher threw at his cheek. He practically flew backwards and landed against a rock. Before he could recover, Asher grabbed him by his neck and held him by the rock wall, his eyes glowing a dangerous, angry red. "Don't you ever say that to me again," Asher snarled. "Asher!" Abraham gasped. He'd never seen Asher this angry before, this furious. "Do you realize what you're asking me? Do you know what you're asking me to do? You just want to throw it all away, everything you have, just like that. Just like that!" Asher let go of Abraham and he sank to the sand, clutching his throat. "Asher, I was just..." "Abraham, you have no idea. No earthly idea what it means to be this," Asher snarled, practically shaking with rage. "Yes, I have power. Power that would make any man shake in their boots and whimper like babies, but do you know what it costs me?" He held up his hands to his eyes as if looking at them for the first time. "I can't walk in the sunlight again. I can never feel the warmth of a day like you do. I have to hide under that stinking umbrella every time the sun comes out. I'm free to eat normal food, but it can't satisfy me. I'm constantly thirsty for blood. I have to feed once a week just to keep up my strength. And every day I know there's a chance I'll lose myself to the thirst. That I'll just become a savage beast, no different than what Michelle was. I dread when the day comes that I enter a blood rage and never come out again. Then who will I hurt, Abraham? Who will I kill just to satisfy this thirst? And when I come out of the thirst, who will I see I've killed to get relinquished from it? Do you know how much that thought terrifies me, Abraham?" Abraham could only stare at Asher as he lamented. I didn't know. I'm sorry." "Abraham," Asher muttered darkly as tears began to build up in his eyes. "You can never know how much I envy you. How much I wish I could be human again. But I'm worthless. No, Abraham, you give us hope, damn it," Asher cried. "Do you even know why this club was created? We created this as a safe haven for monsters like us. Yes, I said monsters. Because that's what the world sees us as, Abraham. We have to hide from the rest of humanity. We're feared, okay? Hated. And because they hate us, we can't let others see us. We can't live with humans. Then you came. And you're not afraid of us. You eat with us. You don't try to kill us. You open your heart to us. You live with us. You sleep in the same house, despite what we are. And you know how much hope that gives all of us. Hope that we're not just monsters cursed to hide for the rest of our lives, treated like garbage by anyone who finds out, but that we can exist with humans once more. Abraham, you prove that we don't have to hide from all humans, and that humans can live alongside creatures like us." Abraham listened and his eyes widened. He never once realized how much his presence meant to the club. But Asher wasn't done. "In a lot of ways, kid, you're braver than any of us. You accepted us as family, something that many of us were hesitant to do for you. But if I make you a vampire, if I blood you, what will that say? What kind of message will that send to us? All of us who were hoping you were the one to prove us wrong." Abraham struggled, trying to contemplate what kind of image that would bring. "I'll tell you what it would mean. It would mean that everything we've done, all that we've worked for, would have been for nothing. It would prove to us that humans can't live with us monsters. Either the human must destroy us, or they gotta become one of us." Abraham gasped and sank to his knees. Asher was right. What other way could it be interpreted? I wasn't thinking about that. If I made you like me, Abraham, yes, you'd have power. But you'd be cursed. And not only that, but any hope you gave us about humanity, after living in peace with them, would be dashed. Do you know just how much of a change you've brought to us since you came here? Tamil, who was always reserved about himself and his past, opened up to you during the campfire the other night. Calypso, who fears humans like the plague, brightened up and began to show a more confident side to herself. And Katie, a girl who hates humans with a deep passion, now she smiles when she sees you, talks kindly about you. Don't you ever tell me how worthless you are, when we can all see the impact you've left on all of us. Asher bent down next to Abraham and pulled him to his feet, grabbing his shoulder, gently but with a firm grip. He looked into Abraham's eyes and smiled. It was warm, even caring. The anger was gone, and deep down Abraham could see sympathy and a bit of pride shine in his eyes. Look, you're our family. Just the way you are. You don't got to change a thing about yourself for that. Abraham smiled in response and took Asher's hand. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't mean to offend anybody. It's okay, man. Just don't ask me for that again. Unless you need another reminder, Asher said, shoving his fist playfully at Abraham's cheek. He laughed. Abraham laughed. And it felt like a laugh between brothers. And what other word could be used to describe them? They felt like real brothers. Something Abraham never knew he could ever have. Asher! Asher and Abraham both turned at the sight of Calypso stumbling up the beach. What is it? Asher asked. It's Michelle. She's gone. What? Abraham gasped. How? When? She probably blames herself for the event last night, just like you do, Asher explained. But she can't have gotten far in her condition. I'll go find her, Abraham. You should, actually, you should come too. You might be able to talk some sense into her. Asher turned and started walking for the woods. Abraham nodded too, walking along behind him and leaving Calypso as she walked back to the beach to check on the others. They walked for about 30 minutes before Asher stopped and sniffed the air. He looked around and then headed towards the south, coming upon a clearing. Wait here. I'll go in alone and... Actually, wait, Abraham said. Is she in there? I smell her in there. Then let me talk to her first. Just watch my back, okay? Asher stared at him a moment, confused, but then smiled. All right. Take it slow. Abraham silently nodded his agreement, then walked out. The clearing was nothing but grass and fallen twigs. Michelle was there, curled up and shivering in the center of it, whimpering quietly and hugging herself. Hey, Abraham said slowly. Go away, Michelle hiccuped. Abraham didn't move. I said go back to camp. Not without you. The rest are all worried about you. I saw what I did, Michelle cried. I nearly killed you. And Asher. And I saw that scar on Sarah I put there on her shoulder. And her hair. I could have killed all of you. But you didn't, Abraham defended. You didn't. And that's what matters, okay? Let's go back. Nobody blames you. They should, Michelle snapped, turning and glaring at Abraham with her angry, tear-filled eyes. And you most of all. I went after you. I know I did. Don't lie to me. And as long as I'm around you, you're in the most danger. All right, then in that case, it's my fault for sticking around. I'm putting myself in danger with being around you, Abraham agreed. Michelle sniffed and rubbed her eyes like a sad little girl. But maybe it's worth the risk. Michelle stopped and looked at him. What? Look, you're right. I don't know what it's like to be a werewolf. And being around you is probably the most dangerous thing I could do. But I couldn't imagine the club without you either. Michelle's eyes brimmed over with tears. She cupped her hands, throwing her face into them, sobbing uncontrollably. Abraham hesitated a moment, then finally walked in and wrapped his arms around her. Michelle didn't hug back. She just simply leaned in the embrace, crying into his shoulder. I was just talking to Asher. I asked him to make me a vampire so that I wouldn't be so helpless anymore. I wanted that kind of power so that I could be a more useful part of the club. But what Asher said, he told me I'm not helpless, and that if I accepted his curse, I'd be throwing everything away. And he's right. So if I can't throw this away, don't you throw it away either. Behind him, Asher was smiling. Attaboy, he chuckled. Michelle looked up at the sound, and Abraham wiped his eyes clean. She hiccuped and smiled. You're both so stupid. But that was really sweet. She leaned forward and planted a gentle kiss on Abraham's lips and stood up, leaving Abraham dumbfounded and blushing as red as a beet. She stood up again and stumbled past him towards Asher. And as for you? She threw a punch at Asher's arm, causing him to double over. Ah! Asher grunted. That's for making Abraham jealous of you, she snapped. She then grinned and smiled. But thank you for knocking some sense into him. And me. She leaned up and gave him a kiss as well, causing Asher to turn red and step back. Michelle winked and walked away. Better not tell Calypso I did that. She'll never forgive me. She headed back towards camp, Asher and Abraham just staring at each other. Well, come on, you two. Let's get home before the sun rises, Michelle shouted, trying to sound like her old self. Crying 1 minute and smiling the next. I don't think I'll ever understand her, Abraham said. Bro, I've known her a lot longer than you. I still don't get her, Asher groaned. And that was chapter 23. Before we go further, it has dawned on me that some folks here may be a little unfamiliar with the characters, so I will quickly throw a picture of the characters up on screen so that y'all know who we are talking about. Because I know that for some people who are new to the story, they may not know who the heck is who. So let's get this up there. There it is. Found the picture. This will help. Got it. All right. And while we're in a pause, let me get my charger so that I can have my phone out and I can read chat. Oh, thank you, Raptor. The cover was actually made by a friend of mine who helped me make the video game for them. This is the cover art for the visual novel. So, it came out really well, too. All right, so that you know who they are, starting from the left, going down, the dude in the black hair at the end, that is Asher. He's a vampire. The girl next to him, that's Calypso. She's a mermaid. Abraham, the main character, is the one in the blue jacket right after Calypso. The girl behind Abraham with the yellow tank top, crop top kind of thing, that's Katie. She's a Lamia. Her lower half is a snake tail. The little girl in the middle, you haven't met her yet. She's not been introduced yet. She'll be introduced later in the club. I'm not going to say anything about her yet. The wrapped up mummy there, who has his finger on his chin, that's Tamil. He is a mummy. The girl with the red jacket, that is Michelle, the werewolf. And finally, the girl with the multiple red eyes and the white hair with the spider body is Sarah. Those are the members of the Monster Club. So now you know. Now you have seen them. All right, so now when I say a character's name, you have an idea of who's talking. Just thought that would help for people who were new and didn't know. All right. Now my phone is charging, and I can go back to reading. So we're on chapter 24, I believe. Pull it up. There it is. This one was written October 19th, 2014. I still don't think it's a good idea, Sarah grumbled. Well, we don't have any better ones, Michelle argued. The entire group was sitting around the beach with their umbrella out. The sun was now in the sky again, and as such, Asher was curled up and hiding under the umbrella while they all discussed the one thing that was on all their minds. They'd missed the train home. How are they supposed to get home now? The group had been spending all morning talking about possible ideas, and Katie had presented one they all agreed on except Sarah. It's not the right thing to do, guys. It's stealing, Sarah said again. Well, it's necessary, Katie argued. I agree with Katie, Abraham agreed. We can't stay here any longer. Oh, yes, God forbid Asher gets more of a tan than he already has, Tamil joked. I heard that, you bandaged bastard, Asher growled. The group laughed, but the joke wasn't entirely unfounded on truth. Asher, while protected by the umbrella and horrendous amount of sunblock, was still getting weaker each day he spent out in the sun. Every passing day on the beach was torment. He needed to get back home. Plus, the longer they were gone, they were more worried that Solomon was likely becoming. Look, we all know that schoolhouse is on the way, yes? Katie argued. We just sneak in there, hotwire a school bus, get Sarah and myself into the back, and everyone else drives off. But who's going to drive? None of us are any good at it, Michelle asked, starting to lose hope again. Hello, I drove us all to this train station, remember? Abraham pointed out. What is your point? Tamil laughed. Shut up. No, he's right. Abraham's the only one who can possibly drive us home, Asher agreed. So just don't eat too much before leaving. You know what? You're all jerks, Abraham growled. Calypso giggled and stood up as well on shaky legs. Guys, look, as much as I love the beach, we really do need to go home, and I think that the only option we can afford is to take the bus. A car is too small for any of us, and the next train that goes from here to our home will be in a few days. We can't wait that long. It was miraculous how much she'd changed in the short time Abraham had known her. She was still a little shy, but she was much better at speaking her mind than she had been in the past. Well, I still don't like the thought of stealing a public bus, Sarah grumbled. Well, other than you, I think we're all in agreement, Michelle announced. As soon as the sun sets and Asher's ready to travel, we go. Get our stuff together. When night finally came, everyone was ready for action, even Sarah. Despite her misgivings, she was not prepared to abandon the family, and she too grabbed gear and hurried off the beach with the others. Michelle led the way for the ragtag family of misfits, making sure to avoid any populated areas. But finally, up ahead, they could see the school building in all its dark and foreboding aura. Abraham had memories of school, and they were never much fun. Tell me, what is school like, Abraham? Sarah asked. Imagine being stuck in a room with a bunch of people your age who are still sitting quietly as an older person does nothing but talk in a monotone voice all day long. You're not allowed to speak or get up unless told to, and all you can do is just take notes on what the older teacher tells you. That sounds unimaginably boring, Katie noted. It's worse, Abraham assured her. At least you had the chance to enjoy it, Michelle argued. Now stay focused. Calypso was a little slower than everyone else as she was holding Tamil's hand, who needed a guide to keep up. Tamil, are you still good to... Yes, I get done. Just get me under the hood, Tamil shouted. The group finally managed to get to the back behind the school. It was too dark for Abraham to make out, but with her keen eyes, Asher and Michelle were already staring at the bus. But there was a problem. It was fenced off by a large fence, and the gates were locked with a padlock. Asher and Michelle began discussing how to get to the bus quickly when it was blocked off by a fence. I could jump the fence in bat form and land on the other side, Asher offered. We're not all gifted with such remarkable talents, Batbrain, Michelle growled. Well, then we should... Damn. How are we going to get everyone over that thing? I could climb over the top and help lift people over, Sarah offered. I would agree with that, but Katie might be too heavy for you to lift, Asher groaned. Are you saying I'm fat? Katie snapped. No, I'm not. Just, What are you doing? Everyone spun around at the sound of a new voice. Standing behind them was a little girl who only looked about 12 or 13 years old. She was standing in a school uniform and a wool jacket on that was clearly too big for her. She was Oriental and had short-cut black hair. In her left hand, hanging on by its arm, was a small black stuffed cat, making the girl in front of them look even smaller by comparison. She spoke with an accent, as if she was from a different country. Nothing. Just run along back home, kid, Michelle said quickly. Are you trying to get in? She asked. The others all looked at each other nervously. This girl had clearly found them out. But what was stranger was she hadn't reacted to Sarah or Katie yet, which seemed like an obvious underreaction. Yes, but you can't tell anyone, Calypso whispered. Asher, you might need to hypnotize her. Make her forget, Michelle whispered. Yeah, just let me... I can get you in, she smiled broadly. Before they could even respond to this, the little girl ran to the fence, not even taking notice of the strangers in front of her, and stopped at the padlock. She grabbed it in her little hand and squeezed it. There was a click, and the padlock fell away with a soft clunk. The entire group was dumbstruck. How had she done that? The girl pushed the gates open and smiled. See? How the hell did you just... Abraham gasped. No time for that. Thanks, kid, Michelle snapped. My name's Annie, the girl replied. Yes, well, thank you, Annie. Take care. Michelle ran into the open gate with the rest of the club right behind her. Annie acted as if she wanted to say something else, but she wasn't given the chance as everyone was already running to the bus. Wait, Hold on, how did she just do that? I want to know, Abraham argued. It's never a good idea to keep ourselves exposed to people who see us, Calypso explained. It leads to questions we do not want to answer, Tamil agreed. They reached the bus and Asher threw open the doors with his massive strength. Now you excuse, I have work to do. Wait, are you going to hotwire this thing? Abraham asked in surprise. You're blind. Lots you not know about me, Tamil laughed. Some things learned by touch and not sight. He crawled into the driver's seat and began fiddling with things. Michelle helped him by moving aside obstacles in his way. All right, while we do this, Abraham, Asher, go and open the back of the bus for Katie and Sarah. Abraham nodded, and with Asher behind him, he ran to the back of the bus, grabbing the handle and throwing open the back. Katie slithered up the door first and held up her hands. Help me up, she cried. Abraham reached down, and Katie hesitated for a moment, seeing that it was Abraham. Her eyes glazed for a moment with distrust, but then she slowly wrapped her hands around his arms and allowed him to pull. Abraham grunted and pulled as hard as he could, but Katie was unexpectedly very heavy considering her snake lower body. You've almost got her, man, Asher said proudly. He jumped the seat and rushed to Katie's side, wrapping his arms around her and tugging the rest of her body in. Katie let out a grunt of pain as she plopped down on the floor. Ow! She shouted. Sorry. No, just get Sarah already. To their surprise, Sarah had less trouble getting up the door than Katie. It was fitting in what was difficult. Now she had to slip all 8 of her legs in while Asher tried to squeeze her large abdomen through the small doorway. These things clearly aren't made for dritters, she moaned as she was struggling to fit through. Just hang in there, Asher growled, pulling harder and harder until at last her whole body popped through and landed on top of everyone. The bus was a mass of struggling arms and legs as people tried to find out who was who and whose feet were in whose face. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, Katie groaned. Shut up already. At least we made it on. Okay, guys, think I just about got it, Tamil shouted. As he said that, there was suddenly a loud roar as the bus came to life. It was a sound that Abraham knew well, but for the first time he was glad to hear it. The bus was on. Well, Abraham, get going, Sarah laughed. Drive! Abraham nodded and rushed to the front seat. Everyone, get seated. I've never driven a bus before, so this could take a moment to get used to. Has anyone had time to write their wills? Michelle joked. Not funny, Michelle, Abraham growled. Abraham punched the gas, and the bus began to lumber forward like a giant sleepy beast. Asher jumped to the back seat, and Katie coiled up in 3 seats at once. Sarah was forced to remain in the aisle, squishing between the seats herself. Calypso threw herself into the middle seat next to Tamil, who was clutching her for dear life. Meanwhile, Calypso wasn't exactly in the best moods herself. Apparently, she had a fear of vehicles. Michelle was sitting behind Abraham's driver's seat to direct him. Her animal instincts were the only direction they had to get back home. Okay, here we go. Y'all ready? Abraham shouted as he turned it on the highway. Ready to what? Crash? Katie laughed. Before Abraham could tell her off, there came a strange sound from under his seat. That was funny. Abraham looked down to see a very familiar face poke out from under the chair. You! He cried. Sure enough, the little Asian girl from before, Annie, was hiding under the chair. Yes, she laughed. I wanted to come too. Michelle growled and he yanked her out from under there with a snarl. What on earth is the matter with you? She snapped. Don't you have any sense? Nothing is the matter, she answered kindly. I just wanted to come with you. But why? Calypso asked, looking over at the girl. You're all amazing. No one steals school buses from the school before. It's so cool. As she spoke, Abraham suddenly heard a puttering and looked at the gauges on the bus. Everything seemed fine until he saw a little red indicator that looked like a battery. Ah! Sorry, guys, the bus is an empty lot for a reason. Its battery's almost shot. You mean we're stranded here? Asher shouted. I'm sorry, Abraham apologized. I help, Annie giggled, running to the dashboard. Sit here, Mr. Blackie. She laughed, setting the little black cat on the dashboard. She then placed both of her hands on the black dashboard and closed her eyes as if in deep thought. Then she pushed down. Byonge. There was a flash of light that blinded Abraham and Michelle for a moment, but the rest of the Monster Club could only stare in stunned amazement as a small torrent of power soared from her hands and into the bus. The indicator on Abraham's dashboard vanished. The bus roared to life with the same vigor it had before. Despite its loud rumbling, no one dared breathe a word. Everyone's eyes and expressions were fixed on the little girl standing before them with the stuffed cat toy, but their expressions were not impressed. Michelle was in shock. Sarah had her hands over her mouth in stunned amazement. Katie was backing against the back of the bus, almost terrified. And though he couldn't see it, the way Calypso was gripping Tamil made him uneasy as well. Asher was almost on his feet staring at her, his red eyes wide in surprise. Magic. Did you just use magic? Asher gasped. She turned around and smiled her cute little smile and giggled. My name is Soyeon, but you can call me Annie. I am Manyo, a Korean witch. No one said a word. It was like the world had gone completely quiet. She then gasped and picked up her cat. Oh, and this is Mr. Blackie. And that was chapter 24. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need some water. All the voices. All the voices. All right. Sorry about that. So, funny story about Annie. What inspired Annie? My girlfriend at the time that I was writing this, Duyeon, was the inspiration. She liked the Monster Club story, and she is Korean, so she thought it'd be cool to add a Korean character. And then Hannah was the one who pretty much designed her. Hannah basically sat down and designed Annie almost from scratch. In fact, I can show y'all her original image if you want. One second. Let's see. Yep, there it is. This was her original look as designed by Hannah. Glad you enjoy it, Raptor. Glad you're enjoying it. But this is what she looked like. This was actually Hannah's first drawing of Annie. Really love the look. I think it makes her look very cute. And then, of course, when the video game was made, when the visual novel was designed, we had to make a new sprite for her. And this was... Come on. Here it is. The sprite design. Ah, shoot. Hold on. I got the low quality version. Give me the high quality. There we go. All right. There we go. Got it now. This was the sprite image we made for her. Annie is actually the only member of the Monster Club that Mika did not have a hand in designing. This was purely Hannah who did this. Do you have any preferences of which version of Annie I like? Oh, I love both of them. I think Hannah and my other friend did a wonderful job. I think they both did a great job in designing Annie. And Annie has a part to play later. Don't worry, she will play a bigger part. Tell you what, at the end of this, I may share some other art about Annie if y'all want. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But anyway, let me take that down. And I'll put this back up. But now you actually know who this little girl is. That is Annie. Make that a bit bigger. There we go. Fill up that screen. Fill up that screen. There we go. All right. Back to it. Back to it. All right. So we are... Chapter 25, I believe? Yep. Chapter 25. Okay. This one was written December 21st, 2014. This can't be real, Calypso whispered to the group. The entire club was huddled together in the front of the parked bus as Annie sat quietly in the back watching them. After she'd announced what she was, the group had told her to wait in the back while they talked. She did so very compliantly, but now the conversation among the club was hushed and incredibly tense. It's real, all right? We all know, we all saw what she did. She put some kind of spell or power into the bus. I didn't see it, Tamil joked. Not now, Tamil, Katie snapped. What do we do about her? How can you all even be debating this? Sarah asked. It's obvious what we do. We take her with us and put our family at risk, Michelle asked. Risk? Abraham asked, confused. Look, she's a kid. She can't be that dangerous, even if she is a witch. The fact that she is a witch is what makes her so dangerous, Asher whispered. Well, I don't understand what it is. She looks like a child to me. The club exchanged glances, and then they all looked at Michelle for an explanation. Look, Abraham, witches, well, they were supposed to be extinct for like 3 centuries now. Okay, so a long time ago, witches were all over the world, right? And all of them had a taste for trouble. They possessed the ability to manipulate like some kind of power, some arcane elements around them in the form of magic. It's a power that humans and monsters alike couldn't hope to possess or compete with. Okay, so what's the problem? Look, okay, witches used to use their powers to oppress humankind, and they were also more than willing to use monsters in their schemes and plots as well. It was thanks to humanity's superstitions and fears that led to complete eradication of witches all around the world. Since then, no one's even heard of any real witches in society today. Witches also in Egypt, in my time, Tamil spoke up. I don't remember when was little, very mean and bad witches in desert. Steal souls, do a lot of harm. Abraham looked back at Annie, who was still sitting quietly with her stuffed cat and hugging it tightly. Okay, maybe so, but you really think that kid could be such a threat? Seems harmless to me. Many things do, but I don't want to potentially put our family at risk. Now, all of you hold on a second, Sarah snapped. I can't be hearing this. You can't honestly be suggesting we abandon her just because of what she is. No, Sarah, I understand how you feel, but no, nothing. But what? Are you all forgetting what our club was made for? It was to help people just like her find a home. I think Sarah's right, Calypso mumbled. Calypso? Everyone turned to look at the timid mermaid. If we turn her away simply for what she is, then what kind of club would we be? She's no different than Abraham, right? A wave of silence washed over everyone as this information and this thought sank in. Okay, but what if she does turn out to be dangerous? Katie asked. Do you really think that Asher can't handle a child? Sarah argued. Look, if she is a threat, then Asher could certainly take her down. But look at her. Does that look like a cold-hearted, wicked witch to you? Everyone shot a glance at Annie. She looked up, seeing them all staring at her, and gave a very flustered wave. What? She asked. Rather than answer, the group went back to looking at each other and discussing what to do with her. Okay, look, Asher growled. We've been stationary for too long. Abraham, go get the bus rolling back for home. We'll talk to Solomon about what to do with Annie when we get there. For now, though, she stays. Abraham nodded and ran to the front of the bus. As he sat down in the front seat, he looked out of the windshield and saw that at least 4 beams of light were scanning the area. Flashlights. There were people out there looking for them. Guys, there are people out there, Abraham called out. Michelle ran to the front and looked out. Well, I didn't smell them coming, she gasped. Oh, no. Everyone turned to the little squeak that Annie had given out. You know them? Michelle asked. It's those men. The ones looking for me, Annie whimpered. Please don't let them get me. Well, what do they want with you? Michelle asked. It's no matter, Tamil shouted. If they hear for her, they find us too. We need to get out of here. Abraham nodded and powered up the bus. The headlights came on and fell on the 4 men, only to reveal that there was, in fact, a 5th. He was tall and bald and seemed to stand out from the other. His eyes were a terrifying dark red, and he was wearing a long coat over his body. His face had a few scars on it. His hands were reaching into a holster by his waist to pull a gun. When the lights fell on him, Michelle gave a small scream. It's him, she screamed. Who? Abraham asked. Abraham, drive now! Abraham kicked the engine and forced the bus forward, causing all the men in front of the bus to leap out of the way. The only one who didn't dive for cover was the mysterious 5th man who had no flashlight. He was already running after the bus with unbelievable speed. At the rate he was running, he'd actually catch up to them. Can't this thing go any faster? Katie screamed. I'm going as fast as I can, Abraham shouted. Sarah was holding Annie close, who was crying in fear. Asher was gripping the seat in front of him tightly and trying hard not to go insane with rage. Michelle looked at him. I know how you feel, Asher, but this isn't the time, Michelle growled. Wait, Asher, you know that guy? Abraham gasped. I would hope so. The entire club let out a shout of shock as they spun around and saw that the emergency door hanging open and the bald man standing inside the bus. He had an amused smirk on his face, and he was looking around at everyone. He saw Annie and moved towards her. Sarah leapt forward to attack him, but with a simple shove, the man threw Sarah off of the seat and into the aisle. "Sarah!" Katie screamed, slithering out to her fallen friend. The man grabbed Annie's wrist and yanked her up. "Time to go. I'll take this little one with me. Consider yourselves lucky I'm not here for any of..." Whatever it was he wanted to say, he never finished. Asher was on his feet in seconds with his own pistol out. He fired off 3 shots at the man, causing him to stumble back and drop Annie. The look on Asher's face was one of pure loathing. "You bastard! Goddamn son of a bitch!" Asher snarled. The man leered at Asher and finally gave a sneer. You've not changed a bit since I last saw you, boy. You're wrong. I've changed a lot. Now I'm gonna kill you!" Asher barked. "Interesting as a fight between us sounds, I'm afraid I'm not here to fight you to the death. I'm here for the witch." "The girl's with us," Michelle shouted, causing Annie and Abraham both to look at her with pleasure. "I wasn't asking permission." The man made another move for the girl. What happened next was a flurry of movement that Abraham's eyes couldn't follow. Asher darted forward, his pistol out and ready to meet the man in front of him. But this time the man was ready, moving back to avoid the attack. Asher was a few seconds faster, though, pointing the gun at the man's chest, and he unloaded his clip into him, who was being knocked backward with each shot. Even after he finished shooting, Asher kept coming after him, finally hitting him so hard across his jaw that he could have sworn he heard the jaw break. "I'll kill you!" Asher roared. He grabbed the man's throat, ready to rip it out. There was so much hate in Asher's voice, so much rage. He'd never seen Asher this way in his life. It wasn't like him at all. How did he know this guy? Why did he hate him so much? And the bigger question was, after being pumped with that much lead, how come this man didn't seem fazed? The stranger seemed rather amused, if nothing else. He was even smiling. "You really want to do this now, son?" He laughed. "Son?" Abraham gasped. "Oh, you didn't tell your little friends who I was? Come on, kiddo, that's cold. Don't you want to tell them about your daddy?" "You're not my dad! You forfeited that title!" Asher swung a kick at his father's chest, sending him stumbling to the emergency exit to the back of the bus. Asher was about to throw him out when his father grabbed hold of Asher's collar and grinned. "Looks like you and I need some father-son time. Well, no time like the present!" He leaned back, still holding on to Asher, and the two fell out of the bus into the night. Calypso screamed. Michelle threw on her coat and ran to the door where they'd fallen out. "Abraham, turn the bus around the first chance you get and come back to pick us up. I'm going to help him." "Michelle, don't do it," Katie cried. "You're no match for Drake. Asher's the best chance he has. Asher's in over his head and he's not thinking. We don't have time to debate this. Just do what I said." Michelle didn't wait for any more protests, flinging herself out the door and towards the father-son battle going on. Katie slammed the door shut behind them and spun to Calypso. "Calypso, go get Annie and take her to the front of the bus. Abraham, turn this thing around." Abraham nodded and began trying to turn the bus, but it wasn't easy considering they were still on a paved road, and he was struggling to get the giant vehicle to stay in control. It wasn't like the car, which turned a lot easier. The bus was large and sluggish and lumbering, but after a few moments of fighting the steering wheel, Abraham managed to get it started on the turn. As he was driving it around, Calypso and Tamil worked together to pull down the bus emergency exit window. "Okay, once it's down, Sarah, you use your web to lasso Michelle and Asher back to the bus. Abraham, don't even think about slowing this tub down," Katie shouted. I got it. You don't need to scream at me," Abraham called back, scanning the street for the fight. After a minute or two, he could make out the figures ahead of him, and what he saw was shocking. Asher and the man were both locked in a vicious exchange of punches and kicks, which were clearly far stronger than any normal human could give. He could almost feel their impact just watching them. Michelle threw herself in whenever Drake was about to make a fatal blow on Asher, and she would attack to distract him. She clearly knew she wasn't a match for him, though, but she could at least hand him long enough to throw him off his timing and aim. It was an effective tag team they were giving, but the real victor of this battle wasn't a mystery. As strong as they were, Asher and Michelle were both tired from the events of the last full moon, and Drake still had enough energy to keep going. "All right, Sarah, reel them in," Katie cried. Sarah struck her upper body out of the window and flung her long thread of silk out to Michelle and Asher. Michelle managed to grab hold, but Asher was at the last moment grabbed by Drake and held back. "No!" Sarah screamed. "Asher!" "Sorry, I'm afraid my son is grounded indefinitely," Drake laughed. Asher thrashed and struggled, but Drake's strength seemed to be on the same level as Asher's. He couldn't free himself. Abraham prepped to slam on the brakes. "Hawaze!" The air ignited like fireworks, and Drake's coat suddenly was lit ablaze with fire. With a roar of shock and pain, Drake threw Asher to the ground and began beating at the blazing coat as fire jumped all over his body. Asher watched Drake burn, but then ran to Michelle and jumped up, grabbing her hand, allowing her to pull him back through the window. Standing by the other window of the bus was none other than Annie, the little witch who had cast the spell to free Asher. "Annie, did you do that?" Sarah asked. "Yes," she whispered. I didn't want him to get anyone else." Abraham smiled, but kept the bus driving onward until the monster was far off in the distance. "Thank you, Annie. We owe you our lives," Asher nodded. Annie smiled meekly and gave a small nod. "Was that man really your dad?" Annie asked. Abraham wanted to know that answer too, so he glanced back a moment, wanting to hear what Asher said. Asher didn't answer right away, but instead leaned against Michelle, who was helping to support his exhausted body. "His name's Drake Cross. And yeah, he's my dad. He was also the one that turned me into a vampire," Asher explained. "You mean..." "Yeah, Abraham. My father's a vampire. He killed my mom, and he made me a monster just like him." And that was chapter 25. All right, need some more water. Fight scenes like that wear out my voice. Okay. Oh, yeah, you'll learn more about Drake later. We're not done with him. All right, we're on chapter 26. All right, here we go. Yep. Sorry about that. Monster Club, chapter 26, written February 18th, 2015. Gosh, rereading some of this, it reminds me of how bad of a writer I was back in the day. Ugh, man, this story is over 10 years old. I can't believe it. Anyway. "Are you serious?" Abraham asked. "Just drive, Abraham, please," Michelle shouted. Abraham didn't argue and went back to focusing on the road, but he couldn't remove the news from his mind. Asher's father was a vampire, and a very strong one from the looks of it. Not only that, but it was Asher's own father who'd bitten him in the first place. But why would a vampire be helping a group of witch hunters? His head was swimming with confusion. He glanced in the mirror to see the rest of the group. How are they all holding up? Asher was sitting in the far back of the bus, trying hard to rest. Calypso was helping treat Sarah, who was slightly bruised from her clash with Drake. Tamil and Katie sat together, neither speaking, but both looking very concerned. Annie was silently looking out the window as they drove. Michelle sat behind Abraham's seat, and she was staring out at the dark, winding road. "I can tell you're confused, right?" Michelle asked. "More than slightly," Abraham admitted, "but I don't know if Asher would want to talk to me about it." "Probably wouldn't. It's not something he likes to share with other people, but then again, I suppose family matters are like that for everyone. No offense," Michelle said, remembering that Abraham was himself an orphan. None taken. "I don't want to pry, but I just want to know." "You want to know what happened between Asher and his dad?" "Well, normally I would tell you that it's Asher's call whether you know or not, but since Drake now knows you're with us, you're in just as much danger as the rest of us, so you have a right to know." Michelle paused for a moment, then leaned forward, resting her cheek on her hand. "First of all, you need to know that there are 3 ways to become a vampire. Blood consumption. You can drink a vampire's blood and make you one. The second way is through, the classic bite, but the bite isn't enough. The bite has to penetrate a vein, and the vampire must insert some of their own saliva or body fluid into the bite, so it mixes with the blood. The third way is very unseemly, by drinking the blood of a human with your dying breath. If you spend your last moments of life drinking the blood of another human, you'll be reanimated as something inhuman." "And what happened to Asher? Which happened to him?" "Slow down, give me a moment, okay? So Asher's dad, about 4 years ago, was a soldier in the army. While in Iraq, his truck hit a roadside car bomb. His entire squad was killed in the explosion. Terrified of dying, Drake desperately tried to cling to life. He needed water, so he crawled to one of his comrades and tried to drink his blood. And that made him a blood-drinking vampire. Revived and rejuvenated, Drake returned home to his family. All right, well, I'm guessing they weren't too pleased with his new vampire self. No, we weren't, Asher hissed. Michelle and Abraham both spun to see Asher standing next to them, his red eyes staring forward furiously. Asher, I'm sorry, No, it's fine, Michelle. I'll tell you what happened. Asher slid down next to Michelle and continued the story. My mom resented him for what he'd become, and my dad attacked my mother in a blind rage. Unwilling to let me live either, he tried to bite me and kill me too. But the moment he bit down on my neck, his chest touched my cross necklace. My mom's necklace that she gave me on my birthday while that bastard was gone. It burned his chest. It forced him back. I had no means of fighting back, so I did the only thing I could. I bit him too, and in doing so got his blood in my mouth. He retaliated by striking me across the head. So I fell dead, or so my dad thought. I woke up in an hour as a vampire. After all, I had bitten him and tasted vampiric blood, plus he'd bitten me and gotten his saliva in my veins. There was no doubt I wouldn't become a vampire. But when a vampire is born, it has to feed immediately. So I fed from the only source of blood available. My mom's body. I couldn't stop myself, but in doing so, I carry a piece of my mom with me from that place. And I hated myself for what I was. I really wanted to just run away and die, but I needed to punish my dad for what he'd done to my mom and to me. For his cowardice. But why is he helping those witch hunters? Abraham asked. Those weren't witch hunters, Abraham. They were the Dawnbringers, Michelle explained. Drake works with them. Wait, hold on. I thought the Dawnbringers hated vampires and monsters. They do. But they have a sort of agreement with Drake. Drake is still a coward, and he's afraid that he may be killed by another monster one day, so he helps the Dawnbringers rid the world of monsters so that he won't be challenged or threatened with death. That seems risky. A vampire working with vampire hunters, Abraham whispered, having listened in. I'm sure Drake intends to kill him if they no longer seem as useful, and I'm sure the Dawnbringers feel the same, Asher pointed out. Abraham didn't speak, but just absorbed the story. He'd never have guessed that Asher's past was that horrible. He couldn't imagine having been turned into a monster in such a sudden and horrific manner, and then being forced to feed from your own mother. It was disgusting and terrifying. How had Asher lived like that for so long? It felt unreal. Where are we going? Annie finally asked, breaking the deafening quiet. We're going back to Solomon's cottage, Michelle said. It's our home, and yours too. Annie giggled and hugged Michelle's arm. Michelle flinched a moment, but unused to this display of affection. Well, at least until we find you a different place to stay. We'll need to explain all this to Solomon, of course, Sarah spoke up, finally sitting up after being treated for a while. Calypso helped her sit, and Sarah smiled at Asher and Michelle. You think he'll be okay with us being home a few days later than we planned? I'm sure he'll be fine. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait to see him tomorrow, Michelle sighed. Abraham, pull over at the next gas station, please. Why? We took a train to get here originally, and we are only also having to take an alternate route home. We need a map, we need supplies, and we need rest, Michelle said. Abraham looked around and finally saw a gas station. He pulled over and rolled around behind the building, parking the bus. All right, listen up, gang. We're camping here tonight, Michelle announced. We need to get a few things done before we turn in, though. I know everyone's hungry and sleepy, so we're going to get some food and a place to sleep. Abraham stood up and stretched his legs from after sitting so long. I really hate to ask, but, how are we going to get food? Abraham asked. I didn't bring any money. A small chuckle emerged from the rest of the club. Abraham, what time is it? Michelle asked. It's almost 3 a.m. I prefer if it were midnight, but we'll make this the new haunting hour. Oh, can I help? Annie asked, tugging on Michelle's arm. Michelle nodded. Oh, yes. Everyone gather around. I will explain the plan. Abraham and Michelle climbed out of the bus to stretch their bodies. Michelle walked around back and opened the back door for the others to get out and go to their positions. When he was done, she walked to Abraham and took his arm, hugging it tenderly and leaning against him. You ready? All I gotta do is just play the role, right? Don't worry. You'll be fine. Right now you're my boyfriend, okay? So play it out, Michelle whispered. Right. Got it. He led her to the gas station door and opened it. Michelle giggled girlishly and leaned against him, acting uncharacteristically girly and upbeat. The cashier behind the counter looked up. Can I help you? He asked gruffly. Yeah, please. Seems we have a bit of a problem, Abraham said, holding Michelle. We ran out of gas about a mile back. Can we borrow a canister to fill up? Guess so. Just wait here a minute. He turned from the counter and began to walk towards a closet nearby. As he was heading there, Michelle looked at the glass door and winked to Abraham. "Showtime," she whispered. "Tamil's ready." Abraham nodded. "Oh, God, what the hell is that?" The cashier spun around and looked to where Michelle and Abraham were pointing, and his face went pale. Banging against the door, moaning and groaning horribly, was the mummy. His eyes glazed over and his mouth hanging open. Tamil moaned. It's some kind of zombie, the man screamed. "The curse followed us," Michelle screamed. "What curse?" the cashier shrieked. Suddenly all the lights went dead. The entire gas station was plunged in darkness. He couldn't see it, but 3 more figures silently entered the station from the back door. "We're all gonna die!" Abraham started screaming. "We're gonna die! Run! Get out of it! Ah!" Abraham screamed as suddenly 8 long spider legs grabbed him from behind and yanked him into an aisle out of view of the cashier. Sarah let out a shriek of evil laughter, and she pretended to bite down on Abraham's neck. The cashier couldn't see what she was doing, but he could see her 8 long legs and her terrifying body. "What the living fuck? Get me out of here!" he cried, running for the door. Just as he got there, Tamil managed to break through the glass and started moaning, reaching out to him like a mindless zombie. The cashier had practically pissed himself now. Michelle let out a loud scream and she was grabbed by the shoulders by another figure. The cashier spun around to see a dark, shadowy man gripping Michelle tightly, his red eyes falling on the cashier as he pretended to bite down on Michelle's neck. Asher snarled. Michelle screamed, pretending to be dying. Michelle screamed for help, let out a loud cry, and finally passed out. Asher tossed her body aside. "I'm still thirsty." The cashier would have screamed, but he was too busy crapping his pants. With a shriek like a scared little girl, he blasted past Tamil and out into the night, screaming and crying about monsters. "Nice work, guys," Michelle called out. The entire club burst into laughter and walked out of their hiding places. Sarah helped Abraham to his feet. Asher rubbed his spit onto Michelle's shoulder where he'd accidentally cut her. Katie slid in from behind the drink maker. "What a shame. I was hoping I'd get to play too," she laughed. "Next time, maybe," Sarah giggled. "Abraham, you did well for your first haunting hour." "What, you guys do that often?" Abraham laughed. Sometimes," Calypso explained, walking inside, holding Annie's hand. "See, we only do it on occasions when we need to clear people out of a building." "We call it haunting hour," Tamil said, brushing the broken glass off his knuckles. "We pretend be monster, scare away humans." "And also, while we're here, let's give a big round of applause to Annie, who did a great job killing the lights for added effect," Sarah cried. The group gave claps for Annie, who blushed and covered her face with her hands. "Stop it," she laughed. Abraham just smiled at this very happy, very mischievous little family. "All right, everyone, there's food and drinks all around. Eat up." The gang separated and began grabbing snacks and food to eat while Abraham helped Tamil find his way to the different snacks. He even tricked Tamil into eating a spicy potato chip, which caused Tamil to cry out and guzzle water like a fish. And for the first time since the werewolf incident, everything seemed happier, carefree. Who cared that Drake and his crew were still after them? It was a wonderful evening to be together. Suddenly, Abraham became aware of the gentlest tugging on his shirt. He turned, and there was Annie, holding a bag of potato chips in one hand and her stuffed cat, Mr. Blackie, in the other. "You're Abraham, right?" she asked. "Yeah," Abraham replied. "You're not like the others. You're human, aren't you?" she asked. Abraham smiled. "Yeah, I am." Annie sat down next to him and stared at him for a long moment. He began to wonder if she was just asking the question to confirm it, but then she turned and watched the party once more. "Why did you join this club?" she asked. "You're human. Among monsters. Aren't you scared?" "I was at first," Abraham admitted. "But, I've come to really like these guys. They're not really monsters to me anymore. They're just family." "Family. What about your family, Annie? Where are they?" Annie shook her head. "I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it." "Everyone!" Tamil suddenly stood up and shouted. "Katie and I talk. She say we need to go back to bus," he cried. "Why? What's wrong?" Sarah asked. "Cops coming!" Katie snapped. Pointing out the window, everyone looked, and sure enough, there were police officers walking their way, carrying flashlights. Annie squeaked and buried her face in Abraham's shirt. "What's wrong?" "I don't like police," she whimpered. "Why not?" She didn't answer, but there was no time for her to. Asher and Sarah were on the move. "Michelle, get everyone back to the gas station. Sarah, Katie, and I'll handle this," Asher said. "Asher, we can't kill them. They're innocents," Michelle barked. "I know that. Just trust me." When the police finally showed up outside the door, Katie and Sarah were in position on opposite sides of it, ready to spring. The door opened. Both officers were attacked at once when they walked in. Katie lashed out and coiled around the first one so fast it was like she was a living spring. Sarah moved in and began wrapping her web around the second one, securing his arms to his side. The two let out cries and screams of terror, but Asher walked out of the shadows next, and his appearance silenced them. Abraham couldn't see it, but from the slack-jawed look the two cops were giving, Asher was using his hypnosis. "Both of you are fine," he whispered. "This is all just a bad dream. You dozed off on patrol, walk back to your cars, and go to sleep. Tomorrow this will all be over." "Right. Of course. Everything's just fine. Now go back to your car." Sarah unwrapped the officer, and Katie released her hold on the other one. They stumbled out the door as if zombies in a trance, moving slowly but steadily to their car. "All right. Crisis averted, but we probably shouldn't stay here too much longer. Let's all get in a quick few Z's and then we're out." And he looked up at Abraham and blushed a little. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, Hey, don't worry. We're going to keep you safe, kid." Asher walked up to Abraham and patted his shoulder. "Hey, Abraham, how you feeling? A little worn out?" "I think I'm going to go ahead and take my Z's now." Annie smiled and hugged her stuffed cat close, sitting down next to Abraham. "All right, everyone, get some sleep. We need to drive as soon as we can. You need more sleep than the rest of us, Abraham, since you're the driver." Abraham nodded sleepily and stretched out. As he did, he felt a small body move up against him, hugging him like he was a baby, like she was his baby sister. Annie nuzzled into Abraham's chest, and Abraham just smiled down at her. She was frightened of everything. She needed this family more than he realized, but he'd be glad to be here for her, just like the club had been there for him. And that was chapter 26. All right, we are on chapter 27 now, and this next one is going to be a little heavy. As a matter of fact, I would go ahead and say I need to go ahead and give a warning for this one. Monster Club chapter 27 is Katie's memory. As you all know, certain chapters throughout the story are memories, like flashback stories that tell the origin of the different characters. Katie's memory is heavy, and it carries some heavy moments. So this is my warning to you now. This chapter is going to be a lot. I'll put it that way. If you are uncomfortable with certain themes, like matters of a nature that could be problematic for some, I would recommend pausing it there. Okay? So just be warned. Chapter 27, Katie's Memory, written March 23rd, 2015. Wake up. I felt myself being shaken. The floor was so cold, and I longed to remain in this blissful sleep. In sleep, in my dreams, I could forget the hell I was in. The Indian moon stared down at me and the other sleeping concubines. I'd been born to this life, from hatching to now. I'd been raised to be a slave in the service of the rich governor. Once I reached the age of 13, I was mature enough to physically be one of the governor's concubines. A sex slave. It was the fate of my mother before she died, and it was my fate for the rest of my life, or so I assumed. In that time, I'd grown to hate the man I called master. Every piece of me loathed him, and the men of the estate. Every one of them had touched me and done things to me that I would never be able to forget. Would I ever be able to love myself, knowing what had been done to my body by these monsters? All of them were despicable, loathsome creatures. All except one. There was one young man who I'd grown fond of. He was different from the rest of them. His name was Damon. He, too, was a servant in the service of the emperor, or the governor, rather. We could relate to one another, and never had he ever mistreated me or hurt me. He'd always been kind to me. And now, as I was shaken awake, I thought I felt his warm hand on my cold, bare shoulder. "Katie, you must wake up." I finally looked up to see who was speaking, and sure enough, it was Damon, looking down at me with an anxious expression on his face. He was shirtless, and over his back was thrown a large bag and a rope. "Damon, what is it? The sun is not up."
"Yes, and when it does come up, we will be far away from here," Damon cried. "We're running away."
I bolted upright in shock. "We're escaping, but the governor will hunt us down, and—"
"I don't care about that. I'm running, and I'm taking you with me, Katie. Let's flee together."
A piece of me was afraid to flee with him. A small piece of me felt like I was tied to this estate and to the governor. But when I looked in his eyes, this was the only man I could trust. The only man I could depend on. If he said we could escape and be happy together, then I believed him. I took his hand, and he helped me out onto my coils.
"Come, we must get to the gardens, out of the walls of the palace."
"I'll follow you," I laughed. I felt myself being uplifted with happiness as we both ran away from the room. Well, I slithered, and down the hallways. There were a few guards wandering around in that time, and we could easily get out of the building. The trick was now getting to the forest. We had to pass through the gardens and into the forest. Beyond that, we'd be safe. The jungle would be our safe haven. We could live there for the rest of our days, or maybe go somewhere else. Damon had spoken of perhaps sneaking to America someday on a ship or a plane. Could we do that? How would we do it? It didn't really matter. We were free. We would escape.
"It's not much further now."
Damon ran through the gardens, and I slithered after him, being careful to stay off the wet ground where my body would leave marks for the guards to follow. I didn't even have any possessions to carry with me. I'd nothing in this life worth holding on to. Soon we'd broken through the hedges and were near the fence. It was too tall for us to jump, but Damon didn't let that stop us.
"Listen, give me a boost and I'll pull you over," Damon cried.
I nodded, placed my hands under his foot, and gave him a lift up to the top of the fence. He climbed up and turned to me. Holding out his arms, I took them. With a mighty effort, he pulled me up over the edge, and I could slither all the way the rest down. We were there. The jungle was only a few meters away from us. As we escaped into the forest, I let out a great laugh of joy and rolled down the great hill that led to the depths of the jungle. Damon was already down there, breathing heavily. "Damon! Damon, we did it! We're free!" I exclaimed. "Thank you, Damon! Damon, what's wrong?" Damon was just staring at me. His eyes were a mixture of anger and a very familiar glare that I knew all too well. It was the same look that the governor would give me when he brought me to his bedchambers.
Yeah, we made it. So now I can do what I never could when I was a servant of that bastard governor."
As he spoke, he removed his pants. "Damon, what are you—"
"Just shut up. I've waited long enough for this. Now be quiet and give me the same thing you give that fat pig."
I felt hot tears build up in my eyes as I finally understood. As Damon exposed himself, I cried bitterly at the sight of him. This wasn't the same Damon I'd known. This was a beast. He was a monster. This couldn't be the man I trusted, the man I put all my faith in. He'd been kind to me. However, the truth sank in slowly and with great agony, and in the end he'd used me. He was no different than the others. It was forbidden for servants to use the concubines, or else they would be killed. But now that we were free, he'd finally get what he really wanted from me. He didn't care about me. He didn't love me.
"Now hold still, you freak," he hissed, leaping on me like a wild animal. He ripped away the decorative cloth I was forced to wear, exposing my body. I screamed. "You lied to me! You used me!" "Don't take it personally," he sneered. I screamed louder, wanting him off me. I thrashed and finally struck him hard across the face. He fell back and rubbed the spot I'd hit him. "You no good little... Get back here!"
I had turned and was slithering as fast as I could into the jungle. I had to get away from him. I wouldn't let him use me. I couldn't. I wouldn't. Suddenly I felt his weight on me. He knocked me to the ground. I spat up dirt and muck from my mouth, and he turned me over. He grabbed me. He began licking my neck like the perverted animal he was. Like all men were. How could I not have seen it? He was no different than the governor, than the officials and the estate attendants. "I hate you!" I screamed.
"I'll live with that. At least I get to appreciate this bizarre and rare thing of yours."
Not this time. With a furious hiss, I launched my body forward and bit his neck, sinking my fangs deep into it. My tears rolled down my face, mixing with the venom I was pumping into his veins. I pulled back and watched him clutch his neck in agony as his face went white.
"Katie!"
he whimpered, his body quivering weakly as the venom took effect. "You used me. You never cared about me. All of you men are the same. I trusted you, Damon. I loved you." Damon didn't respond, but just fell forward.
the life leaving his eyes as he lay there passing away. I screamed at the stars and cried in pain and in loss. I'd escaped captivity, but had I really escaped the pain? Was this my fate, to be used and misled by men? How could I ever trust another man again after this? I don't know. Perhaps I never could. All I knew was that I had to get far away from here. I was on my own. Again. Maybe I always would be. But my greatest fear was that this was my life. Forever alone, unable to trust a soul. All right, that was chapter 27. I'll put a note in chat saying that we're done with that. So for anyone who muted it or walked away, y'all can know we're done with that now. I always give that warning because for some people that is heavy. Yeah, I understand. I understand people having to step away. I get that. No, I genuinely get it. I genuinely get it. I don't normally write stuff like that, but Katie's story was a very heavy one, and that's why I warn people. I always say when it comes to Katie's backstory, we got to approach it, with a lot of respect and with a lot of carefulness. You know what I mean? But we are done with that. We are going to move on to chapter 28. But that gives many of you hopefully an idea of why Katie hates human men so much. All right. We'll move on to chapter 28. This was written May 12th, 2015. When Abraham awoke the next morning, he awoke to see that the sun was shining in. Glancing around the room, Abraham saw the rest of the club all fast asleep, but one was missing. Katie? Abraham sat up and easily moved Annie out from under him so he could let her sleep still. He stood up and began scanning the room for the snake. After a few moments, he turned and saw her resting by a glass door, still broken from last night. She was gazing out the sun, shining, casting a glow upon her soft scales. Her hair caught the rays, and it seemed to illuminate every ray. Her eyes, reptilian as they were hauntingly exotic, that Abraham could not get them out of his thoughts. She really was beautiful. Katie. Good morning, she whispered. You're up early? I'm worried about Asher. The sun is coming up, and he's not back yet, she said. When did Asher leave? Abraham asked in shock. Katie chuckled. Nighttime is the only time when Asher can go out into the open. I think he went down to around 3 o'clock last night to get a bite to eat. Or a bite to drink, rather, I suppose. Abraham shuddered at the way she put that, getting the mental image of Asher dressed as Count Dracula and biting the neck of some defenseless person. Yeah, I'll bet. But I'm sure he's fine. Maybe, but he's cutting it way too close, Katie growled. She paused a moment and then looked to Abraham. Abraham, I want to apologize to you. For what? It's no secret that I didn't like you at first. Didn't like me? You tried to kill me once, Abraham laughed. Yes, I did, Katie admitted. I was wrong, Abraham. You're a good human. Maybe one of the few. At least one of the few I know. I was wrong to pass judgment without knowing you better. Katie, if you don't mind my asking, Abraham dared, could you tell me why you dislike humans? Katie didn't answer, but just stared out at the horizon, a definite rage and pain in her eyes. Sorry, I probably shouldn't ask. I was betrayed by the only human I ever truly loved and admired, Katie hissed. I'd like to just leave it that way, Abraham. Right, sorry, I really didn't mean to prod at old scars, I know, Katie moaned. I know you didn't mean to offend. Listen, you're kind. Katie gave a smile. You're a very kind human. Just make me a promise, Abraham. Sure, what is it? Promise me you won't ever hurt this club? Of course I promise that. I would never hurt any one of you. Katie glanced at him for a long moment. I want to believe you. I want so badly to believe you. But I fear to trust another human man with that kind of faith. It was the pain in Katie's voice that fully made him realize just how deep the wounds she had went. The betrayal at the hands of humans was far worse than he thought. The way her voice cracked was like that of a child who had done nothing wrong, but it felt that a spanking waited for her all the same. He felt pity for her, though he knew that was the last thing she wanted from him. Asha! Before Abraham knew what to say, Katie had spotted a figure running to them, smoldering under the rising sun. Asher threw himself inside to hide from the sunlight and gas and exhaustion. Asha, are you... I'm fine. Give me a moment. Asher leaned against the wall and clutched his chest as it heaved in and out. His skin looked a bit burned, but it would heal with time. His hands were dirty and his boots stained with mud, clay, and what looked suspiciously like blood. Why were you gone so long? I took a side route. Throw the Dawnbringers off our trail. Asher chuckled between breaths. It was tricky, but it bought us some time before they find out the truth. Plus, since it's daybreak, they can't use my dad to track us anymore. Katie helped Asher up and looked around at the others. Then it's time we moved out, right? Wake them up, Katie encouraged. Abraham hurried around to get to work waking the club. Like zombies, the gang all rose to their feet, rubbing their eyes and yawning. The events of last night had left them all exhausted. Michelle was the first to rise, though, and she began taking in the group around her and what needed to be done to get things moving. All right, we leave in 20 minutes, she announced. Everyone get some food, gear, and whatever else you need to move out. Asher, turn yourself into Ashley and get under the umbrella. Sarah, I need you and Katie to be the first ones onto the bus so that we don't draw too much attention with you two. Calypso, help Tamil get some fresh water in the cooler. And Abraham, you and Annie grab some first aid equipment from the back so we can restock. Move it, people! The entire gang began moving together. Abraham led Annie over to the back of the desk and began hunting for first aid boxes and bandages. After some searching, Annie pulled out a small blue box with a red cross on it and grinned. You think this is it? I'd bet money on it. Go take it to Michelle. There's something I need to do real quick. Okay. Annie climbed to her feet and scurried away from the desk to deliver her find. Abraham turned and gazed at the rest of the group. Asher was already in his new form and standing under an umbrella that was red and blue in color. Katie and Sarah were packing materials to carry, and Calypso was helping Tamil to the hose outside. The group was mending from the first few nights. The battle with Michelle and then the arrival of Annie had all been surprising and frustrating in their own right. But to then be faced with this threat of Asher's father, it was like Abraham's arrival had caused a strange sequence of events, like dominoes crashing into each other. For good or bad, these things were going to play out, and Abraham feared what might happen if they were not prepared. Are you okay, Abraham? Michelle asked, putting her hand on his shoulder and snapping out of his trance. What? Oh, yeah, right, Abraham said quickly. Michelle grinned and tousled his hair. Let's move it, daydreamer. Lift Sarah and Katie onto the bus for me. Abraham agreed and moved to the bus with Michelle behind him. You get in the bus and pull them in while I go from behind and push. Sure. The two were hiding behind the bus so passing traffic couldn't see them. When Abraham climbed onto the bus, he opened the rear door and knelt down, waiting for the first one. First was Katie as she held up her hands. Abraham grabbed hold tight and pulled up, allowing Katie to get her upper body in. Michelle came from behind and lifted up the coils of Katie's body and pushing her inside carefully. Katie continued to hold on to Abraham until she was fully in the car. Sarah came next, and it was far more difficult as her large abdomen got caught in the doorway. Ow! Sarah cried, as she felt Abraham and Katie both pulling on her arms. I'm just not getting through. It's a miracle I fit in last time. Hold on, Sarah. I'm going to pull you out, okay? Michelle asked. Michelle pulled back on Sarah's abdomen and helped her back out of the bus. Just let me open this a bit. Michelle climbed up to the door and placed her hands on either side of the doorway. Michelle let out a roar, enhanced from human to an animalistic howl, which sounded frightening like her werewolf voice. Abraham leapt back in surprise as she pushed open the doorway further by spreading the doorway apart. The bus might as well have been made of cardboard. How the heck did you do that? Abraham cried. I've never seen you show that much strength before. Werewolf blood. A small portion of that extra strength and stamina while I'm human. I just have to tap into it from time to time. Always greater than closer to the full moon. Since it only happened a few nights ago, I still have some of that excess stamina. Yeah, but I never like it when you do that, Sarah said firmly, lifting up her body to get back into the bus. When you tap into that power, you act a bit too harsh. Yeah, I know. And that's why I try not to do it. But this is much easier for you to get in now, Michelle said, stretching. Katie and Sarah were now both securely in the bus. However, the rear of the bus wasn't going to be able to close now. Michelle shrugged that off. Don't worry about the door. Just don't let anyone sit near it, okay? Abraham shook his head. Her stubbornness was astounding. And also, this new discovery felt strange to him. It felt like the more he learned and revealed about the Monster Club, the more things he didn't understand, and the more things shocked him. Would he ever grow used to this family? Do you ever get used to your family, he wondered. After about 10 minutes, Calypso and Tamil were helping each other carry a cooler to the bus. While Calypso led, Tamil hobbled after her, holding onto the cooler with all his strength. His teeth were gritted in pain as he fought to hold up the heavy water-filled chest. Abraham hopped out of the bus and helped him by grabbing his end and lifting it to the back of the bus. Thank you, Abraham, Tamil sighed, clutching his fingers. Get on, man. Show me way, please. Tamil held out his hand and Abraham took it, escorting him into the stairs of the bus so he could climb on. When Abraham had seen Michelle display another one of her abilities, it made him all that more curious about Tamil, someone he knew very little about. Hey, Tamil, being a mummy, does that give you any abilities? Ability? Tamil asked questioningly. Well, yeah, like can you summon plagues of locusts or something? He said, joking, but Tamil's face remained rigid. Hope you joking, Abraham. There no such thing as mummy curse. Shocked by Tamil's stern response, Abraham backed down and flushed shamefully. He had no idea that Tamil would take the question so harshly. Oh, I'm sorry, Tamil, I didn't mean to offend you. I really got you. Tamil laughed, shoving Abraham a little with a big smile. I just fooled you a bit. Tamil chuckled and shook his head. He'd been playing a joke with that serious and offended response. Truly, Tamil's sense of humor was completely unpredictable. Or maybe Abraham had no sense of humor. Man, I can never read you, and I cannot read anything. Tamil laughed, using the bus railing to help him up the steps. But do have few skill as undead. Can detach limbs and reattach. That's... really? Can you show me? Can, but won't. Very painful. And limbs only reattach if Sarah saw them back on. He pointed to his finger, which Abraham could see barely saw some faint scarring where it looked like his finger had been sewn back on sometime in the past. So you can lose limbs, just not die? Yes. Not so fun, be dead. I could have told you that, Abraham laughed. Finally, Asher climbed onto the bus, holding the umbrella over the head from the sun, but he was still sweating heavily to the point that his clothes were getting wet. Just get me out of the sunshine, please. Remind me again why you're not turning into Ashley, because I'm sick of all of you teasing me, he growled. He sat down and curled up on the seat, using the umbrella to shade himself. All right, I think everyone's here, Michelle asked. Annie, Calypso, you guys ready? I think Calypso going bathroom before leaving. Annie may be with her, Tamil offered. It was then Abraham realized that Calypso and Annie were not there. I'll check it out, Michelle said. No, I'll do it. You're going to go check a girl's bathroom? Michelle giggled. No, I'm just going to go see if they're in there or not. Plus, I want to use the bathroom, maybe. Abraham hurried off the bus and ran inside before Michelle could object. As he walked in, he saw the light of the bathroom was on, sneaking around the crack of the door. Anyone in there? Abraham asked. Yes, give us a moment. Is Annie in there too? Washing hands, Annie responded. Well, hurry up. We're getting ready to leave. The bathroom door flew open as Calypso stumbled out and crashed into Abraham. Ow! Calypso and Abraham crashed to the floor as Abraham rubbed his head where he'd fallen. I'm sorry. What's wrong? Oh, no. Abraham looked and saw that Calypso's legs had turned back into a long fishtail. Annie must have splashed her accidentally while washing her hands. She was back in her mermaid form. Calypso, what happened? Don't panic, okay? She struggled to get up, using his arms as leverage. Annie, can you go back to the bus? I'll take care of Calypso. Just hurry up. Annie nodded and grabbed Mr. Blackie in her arms and rushed to the bus. Once she was out, Calypso rolled onto her back for Abraham to lift her. He scooped her up and grunted as he felt her weight on his arms and back. Ah, dang. You're heavier than I thought. Don't be rude, Calypso squeaked, blushing. It's not polite to pick on a girl about her weight. After adjusting her in his arms, he walked quickly to the bus where everyone was waiting. I hope Asher doesn't mind this, Abraham whimpered. Asher will understand. We're all family here. We understand one another. As he held Calypso onto the bus and everyone began patting her dry, Abraham thought about all he learned today. Katie's history with men, Tamil's strange ability to lose limbs and then have them sewn on, Michelle being able to tap into supernatural strength. All of it was now new to him, despite him being with them for so long. He was beginning to understand them, but would he ever fully understand them like they did each other? Well, don't just stand there, Michelle finally said, glaring at Abraham. Get back, get moving, Abraham. Solomon's waiting on us. Right, sure. Abraham climbed to the seat of the bus, and Annie ran up to the dashboard, placing her hands on it. Byungay! The bus engine roared to life again, and Abraham put his foot on the gas, startling Annie as she fell against Abraham and leaned into his arm. Watch yourself now. Annie giggled and looked up at the group. Those guys are weird, but they're really nice, Annie noted. Yeah, they are. And they're definitely weird, Abraham smirked, leading the bus, finally, back towards home. And that was chapter 28, and probably where I'll have to stop because my throat is starting to feel it. One of the biggest struggles of Monster Club, I'm not going to lie, this is probably the biggest struggle with Monster Club, and one of the reasons why it is a difficult story for me to read and go back to is because I think I made a major mistake. I added so many characters. There are so many characters going on at once, and I know, it's part of the club, but just think about how many we have. Just look at the screen right now. Just crap. That's 8 characters right there. And these aren't even the last characters. Like, there will be more characters that appear. They won't be official members of the club, but more characters will appear. And it is crazy how many there are. And that was probably the biggest weakness I had when working on the Monster Club. Just, I had too many characters, and balancing them all became a real challenge. But it is still one of my favorite stories that I've ever worked on. So, while I drink something real quick, let me know what you guys thought. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Oh, and for those of you wondering how many chapters are in the Monster Club, there are 56 chapters. And we are on chapter 28. So we are about halfway through. We are about halfway through. Needed that. Whew. All right. Hope to see more in the future. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed, Raptor. Hope you come back for more, man. Would love to have you in for more of these. And if any of y'all listen to this and haven't heard the story from the beginning, feel free to check out the playlist Raven Reads and hear the story from the beginning. You'll hear a lot more really cool stuff. And again, I do want to apologize to everyone for the Katie memory. I know that was a heavy chapter, and I do apologize for that. But trust me, we will not be getting any more chapters like that in the story. So you can rest at ease. And I hope to see you guys for the next one. Thank you all for joining me tonight. This was an amazing stream. Enjoyed having you all with us. We'll be back next Monday to do another round of Monster Club reading, because I do want to finish reading the story with you guys. And I think that'll about do it. So thank you all so much for joining me. Again, you all are amazing. And I look forward to the coming videos. Thank you all so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.